Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
We all know about FATF, or what Imran Khan calls FATF. In fact, that's what he called it in his speech at the United Nations General Assembly last year. Now, Financial Action Task Force had its plenary meeting yesterday, that is Thursday of this week, and delivered a surprise. First of all, there was no surprise in the sense that Pakistan continued to be on the grey list. Now, the grey list countries are those which are under intensive watch. So they are not out yet, they are not in the white list, but they are also not completely banned, so they are not on the blacklist. The blacklist actually has only two countries, that is North Korea and Iran. So you have to work very, very hard to make that grade of the blacklist. So Pakistan is never quite made that grade, but they continue to be on the grey list. The interesting thing is the new countries that got added to the grey list. The grey list now has 23 countries. And which are these three countries? They are, and I will tell you the least surprising first, that is Mali. Mali has had a series of coups. We also had a Kartak Tatar episode on it some time back. That's part of that belt in Africa, which is very unstable and where Islamic militant groups are now getting established in the Sahel region. So Mali, no great surprise. Jordan, big surprise. And frankly, to tell you the truth, I still haven't figured out why Jordan. Because usually you would have thought of Jordan as a good guy because it's a very pro-Western country, almost like a client state of the Western powers. But we'll figure out over the next couple of days what did Jordan do wrong. But the big surprise on the surprise ladder, the biggest one, so we climb lowest, second highest, and the highest. At the highest level of the surprise ladder is Turkey, the great country of Erdogan. Turkey, a rich country, a developed country, has now been added to the FATF or FATF grey list. And Turkey has surprised everybody, so much so that I also called several of the well-known strategic affairs experts this morning, Indians, to ask, what do you think happened with Turkey? And they are all saying we were taken by surprise. We are now reading up. Now, first of all, credit where it's due. It was Financial Times which in a story just a few days back had said that this year Turkey has a chance of getting on that list. In 2019 also, December 2019, FT had a story suggesting that if Turkey does not get its act together, it could get on the FATF grey list. Now, Turkey has gotten there. Why has it gotten there? So I have some explanation because I am reading the reports of the plenary of the FATF and some commentaries on this and statements by others. So as I read up more on the FATF report and analysis and the commentary that's coming out, and I read experts, it tells me that lots of Turkey-based residents, companies and officials, they've been frequent targets of US sanctions. In fact, Turkey is one of the most heavily sanctioned jurisdictions by the US. Remember, Turkey is a member of NATO. At this point, Turkey becomes only the second NATO member to make it to the FATF grey list. The other one is Albania, usual suspect. It is among the poorest countries in Europe. It is cleaning up its act, but it's there. But so does Turkey now. Turkey now joins in Albania as the second NATO country on this list. So Turkey is the most heavily sanctioned, among the most heavily sanctioned jurisdictions in the world, and definitely the most heavily sanctioned jurisdiction among American and the West's allies. They are being charged, their people and their companies and officials are being charged for terror financing, for Islamic State financing, for running corporate networks which are involved with Hezbollah, with North Korea, with Venezuela. So Halkbank, which is one of Turkey's largest banks, predominantly state-owned, that's under prosecution in the US for helping Iran defy sanctions and conducting billions of dollars of business and also laundering a lot of money. So they are a target now and they are now paying the price, except nobody had quite believed that this would happen. And once again, because of the way Turkey's got banned, you also have to be more skeptical, particularly if you sympathize with Pakistan and you say, oh, bichare Pakistanis. They only keep on staying on this list, they get a bad name because of Indian pressure on FATF. FATF is a grouping of 39 nations. In fact, the FATF president himself said that this was not done under pressure from India, on Pakistan. And similarly, if a country like Turkey, which is powerful, which is an ally of the West, a NATO member, that can get sanctioned like this, to be on the grey list is like a level of sanctions, because now IMF, World Bank, foreign investors, etc., they become very wary of you. In fact, all the data tells you from IMF and elsewhere that being on the grey list can cost you about 7.6% equivalent of your GDP in foreign investments. That is both FDI and FII. So it's a big price to pay, and that is what's happening. FATF has said that Turkey now has to bolster its illicit finance oversight. It has to tighten its bank regulation. It has to improve its prosecution of terror finance companies. It has to also lock up money launderers. And it also has to regulate its money service business, which is now continuing in purely an unregulated environment. And you know where Turkey sits in terms of geopolitics. It sits in the middle of Syria, Iran, Iraq, all these Kurdish regions. We always knew that Turkey had a large Kurdish minority, but that it's 19%, almost 1 in 5, is some bit of a surprise to me. So Turkey sits in the middle of this very unstable region. Also, it is also contributing to instability of all these regions, because Turkey habitually under Erdogan has the habit of wading into everybody's trouble. So they are part of the troubles in Syria, they are part of the troubles in Libya, they are part of the troubles in all the Kurdish areas, in Iraq, everywhere. So this is ambitions running way ahead of Turkey's inherent strengths. Although Turkey is a large country, it's a country of 8 crore plus people, among the largest in that region. Also, it's a country that's not quite poor. It's a country with a per capita income which is about the same as China's on a nominal basis, or about 5 times as much as India's. But it's also a country now whose economy is in a stall and decline, mainly because of Erdogan's dictatorial policies and a sort of fantasy of playing the Ottoman of 21st century. His country is paying for that. So look at the list that his country is now joined in. The list of countries on the grey list of FATF. Albania, Barbados, Botswana. Botswana is now out of it. So 2 countries have now grown out of the grey list this time. As 3 have come in, Mali, Jordan and Turkey, 2 have come out, that is Botswana and Mauritius. So Albania, Barbados, Botswana, existing list. Burkina Faso, Cambodia, Cayman Island, Jamaica, Jordan, Haiti, Malta, Mali, Mauritius, Morocco. Mauritius is now out. Myanmar, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Panama, the Philippines, Senegal, Syria, Turkey, Uganda, Yemen, Zimbabwe. So most of these countries are sort of the usual suspects. And if you see some sort of surprising names like Cayman Island or Bermuda, Barbados, and you say, what's wrong with those countries? Those countries play fine cricket, etc. That's because those also happen to be tax havens. And you've seen lately lots of revelations coming out of tax havens, the latest being the Pandora Papers. So generally, globally, now tax havens are in bad odor. And I suspect one reason Mauritius has come out of the list is Mauritius has cleaned up its act in that area of being a completely unfettered tax haven. That is where Turkey has now got in. And see what's happened to Turkey meanwhile. Turkey was a rich country. There was a time, a long time back, almost 100 years back, when Turkey was described as the sick man of Asia. Turkey recovered from that. Turkey had a very bad time in the 1970s also, its economy declined. But Turkey recovered. 2002, Erdogan came in. And with him also came a boom in Turkish economy. But with him also, boom goes to people's heads, particularly if they think they can now get dictatorial powers. And boom then leads eventually and inevitably to a doom. So in his case, I'll share with you this article from Financial Times that tells us, in his case, the doom began in 2013. That's when the big protests took place, and he, Gezi Square, etc., and he crushed those protests. And since then, power became political power, total domination became his theme, and from then onwards, Turkish economy began to decline. So look at what's happened to Turkish lira. So there are two ways of looking at it. One, I can tell you that in 2006, that is 15 years back, Turkish lira, 1.48 Turkish lira got you $1. Today, 9.6 Turkish lira gets you $1. Sometimes we might be confused comprehending the value of a currency vis-a-vis the dollar, because we might think, oh, but all currencies depreciate vis-a-vis the dollar. Most currencies depreciate. Indian rupee has also depreciated. So I can tell this to you in a slightly different way. For example, in 2016, around this time of the year, you could buy 1 Turkish lira for about 23 rupees. 1 Turkish lira for about 23 rupees. Today, you can buy 1 Turkish lira for 7 rupees 80 paisa. In fact, exactly today, 7 rupees 79 paisa. So that tells you that even compared to the rupee, which in turn has weakened against the dollar, even against the rupee, the value of the lira is 1/3 of what it used to be 5 years back. Now, how has Erdogan got here? Because Erdogan now thinks that he's such a big dictator that he can dictate everything, including monetary policy, inflation rate, growth rate. मैंने order किया, मान लो, otherwise I'll shoot you in the head, right? Like that. But money doesn't work like that, because you cannot terrorize money. You cannot be the dictator of money. You can steal your people's money being a dictator, but you cannot tell money or the markets what to do, because markets may be as wayward as they are, but no monarch can control the markets. The markets are now taking revenge on him or making him pay for it. So look at his economy right now. The Turkish national bond, Turkish sovereign bond, 10-year bond. Imagine what is the interest rate on it now. It's now gone up to about 20.5%. 20.5%. Indian bonds, India is a much poorer country than Turkey. If the bond yields go a little bit above 6%, we begin to worry. 8% would be absolutely a disaster, right? Because everything else is then linked to that. If your government is borrowing it that much, then the whole economy becomes a high-cost economy. So every country works on keeping its bond yields low. In Turkey's case, it's gone to 20.5%. Now, you don't have to be an economist to understand the rest of the data. Its bond yields are 20.5%. Its inflation rate now is 19.58%. So you can understand the bond yields being above the inflation rate, at least, because you need to have some return, right? So inflation at 19.58%, bond yield at 20.5%. On top of that, just today, he's got his central bank, again with a gun to their heads, he's got his central bank to cut the interest rates by 200 basis points. That is 2 percentage points. That is, bank people, finance people like to use basis points, so there's no confusion. Because if we said 2 percentage points, as in from 8 to 6, or as in 18 to 16, we might be confused in terms of 2% of the whole thing. So 200 basis points makes it clearer. So from 18%, his central bank has cut the lending rates to 16%. Last month, they had cut it from 19% to 18%. So in 2 months, he's forced his central bank to cut interest rates by 300 basis points. So today, his central bank is lending money much cheaper than at the price at which, say, the government borrows in terms of its own sovereign bond from the rest of the world. This is completely a cockeyed economics. It's not going to survive. That is why his currency is taking a hit, because the markets know kaun kitne pani mein, who's worth how much. But he doesn't seem to care, and he doesn't like facts. So in the last 2.5 years, he's fired 3 of his central bank governors. In 2.5 years, 3 governors. Just last month, he fired 3 members of his monetary policy committee, because two of the 3 said that, look, we should not be cutting rates any further, and one was ambivalent. So he got rid of all 3, Alice in Blunderland, right? Because Erdogan's view is, I don't like interest rates. I don't like interest. I want to distribute money for free, so money can produce jobs, people can buy things. But remember, Turkey is a very heavily import-dependent state. For them, when the value of the lira falls, as inflation goes up, As he pumps more money in the market, inflation goes up further. It's a vicious cycle. As that happens, lira weakens. As lira weakens, then his imports become more expensive and his consumers suffer. And that is precisely what's happening in Turkey right now. On top of this, Turkey has got this cruel calamity, but a self-inflicted calamity or self-invited calamity of FATF grey listing. So in conclusion, I will also share with you an article from Reuters by Jonathan Spicer, who said how Turkey's economic miracle began to fail. It's a July article, and he tells you with data and graphics, and I'll have the article run on the screen, you can see it. He shows you how prosperity, equality and employment all have been in free fall since 2013, and 2016 he had that failed coup attempt by some military officers. He used that to his advantage yet again to get even more dictatorial powers. That hasn't worked from him at all. And also see particularly the graphic on per capita incomes. It began when Erdogan took over, it was about $4,700. It went up, it peaked in 2013 at 12,582. Today it's somewhere between 8,000 to 9,000. So that is the price Erdogan has made his people pay for his own dictatorial ambition. And now his big power ambition, the games he's playing in Iran, in Syria, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan. He's Pakistan's most vocal supporter on Kashmir, for example. All that is now making his country pay a price.